Welcome to the Smart Fix podcast, where smart guys fix more than just problems.
We're your hosts, Alex and Chance. We're building something bigger than a business. We're building a better way to grow, lead, and break through the plateaus that hold service businesses back.
This isn't theory. It's a front row seat to our journey, the late nights, the learning curves, and the wins worth chasing.
If you're tired of feeling stuck and ready to outsmart the grind, you're in the right place.
This is the Smart Fix podcast. Let's get to work.
So let's talk about why we want to do a podcast. I know for both of us, we've gone through a lot when it comes to home service industry, business in general. What are kind of like your main topics you hope that we cover throughout all of our episodes?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is there's not a lot of education on growing a business to 1, 2, 3 million within the home service space. Once you get above that, there is quite a lot of material from Harvard and just MBA programs and all of that. But when you're at 500,000, 750,000, like those are really tough spots to be in. And so what I hope to cover in this podcast is how business owners within that range can optimize for things like hiring, payroll. How do you hire people? How do you fire people?
Yeah.
How do you get leads? How do you sell those leads? How do you pass off sales to somebody else that's not yourself? How do you delegate the work of tasks? So those are kind of the things that I want to be able to cover on this podcast, is those essential pieces, those core pillars that allow a business owner to get to $1 million.
For sure. I know. I mean, it was less than, or I guess it was a little over a year ago now that I'd say we not officially started the Smart Fix. That was more than 2 years ago, but it was our, I would call it like rebrand. We went to a new location. We're doing a new thing.
Basically April of 2024.
Yeah. So April of 2024. I want to talk about numbers, not on a bragging aspect, because on this aspect, it's terrible, but like 100,000. And I was like, oh, we did 100,000 for whatever. And I was like proud to reach that, because it was just me and like a helper or whatever. And it just kind of comes full circle of why we wanted to start this podcast now, just because of how much I've learned over a year of going from 100,000 to now being on track to like crossing the million.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like there is so freaking much to learn. I know from my aspect of like, if I think back to last April, where it was, hitting the 100,000 or whatever for the year. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, wow, that's awesome, because I felt self-sufficient. That was it. That's all that it was. But then a year later, it's now like, that's our monthly goal. Like, we need to be able to do that on a monthly aspect. And so just to go through that in the course of 12 months, I think has been like just a speed ramp to success. And I don't know, I just feel like there's so much to be learned from all of it. Basically everything that you just talked about, everything that, I would say a year ago, I didn't give a crap about the numbers or data or really anything at all. And it was just like, get the customer, do the work, get the customer, do the work, get the customer, do the work. It was not about like the growth or anything like that from that point. Whereas now it's like our lead handyman handles that stuff. Our CSRs handle the getting the work. And I'm actually looking at the numbers, like how do we get to this? How do we get to that? Mm-hmm. And that's so difficult, like you were saying, for so many people that are trying to go from 100, 200, 300, 400 to $1 million, 2 million. And then, like you said, there's all kinds of courses on how to go from 2 to 5, 5 to 10, whatever, and kind of keep going up. But this one's the hard one that I feel like everybody just kind of is making shit up, if that makes sense. Like, you're just trying to put little pieces together to get to this point, and I don't feel like there's a rule book. There's no like, here's what you need to do to get to this. Like, nobody lays that out at all, and you just kind of make it happen.
Because if you think about it, going from 100,000 a year to 200,000 a year is doubling your revenue.
Yeah.
Going from 500,000 to 750,000, that's increasing revenue by 50%.
Mm-hmm.
A business is not the same when you double revenue or you
No.
increase it by 50%. But when you're at 10 million, you go from 10 million to 11 million, greater in, nominal terms, but that's only a 10% increase. And
Mm.
so it's just a very hard place for business owners to be in at this level of you're constantly increasing revenue by 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And every time your business increases by 25, 50%, stuff changes and
Yeah.
breaks, and you have to figure it out. And you might be going through that cycle, like through the Smart Fix. We went from $100,000 in 2023 to 2024. I think we were at like 690,000 or something like that. So we
Right.
almost 700% increased revenue. And now in
Yeah.
2025, we're on track to do over 1 million. And so the times that you double revenue, increase revenue by 50%, like you can do that 5 times within a single year. You can double revenue 5 times within a
Mm.
single year. And so it's a very hard place for business owners to be in. And so that's what I hope that we can, accomplish with this podcast is helping businesses who are in kind of that no man's land of trying to grow and just figure things out. Maybe they don't
Yeah.
have a business background. This is their first business. They've never managed a team before. Helping them by giving them insights into what we're doing at the Smart Fix and kind of what we've learned along the way. So that way they can pick up those tidbits and help get to that next level. When they get to 500,000, how can they maintain that and then grow to 600 and 700 and 800?
And I feel like the only things that I find online are these two things, and it's how to manage your team and how to sell. Like that's the biggest
Yeah.
things that everybody coaches for the smaller businesses, right? They don't talk about how to 7x, 10x really. Do you feel like those are the top two things, or do you think at the beginning stages you're really worrying about anything else?
When you're growing to 1 million, kind of that first million in revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about sales primarily, and
Yeah.
rightfully so.
Right.
Sales is one of the most important levers that's going to take you to 1 million, because you
Hmm.
can manage the first 250, maybe 300,000 in revenue with yourself with plus one guy. And then
Hmm.
from there, complexity in terms of like management of the team doesn't increase too much, but
Hmm.
you have to figure out how can I double the amount of customers coming in. And
Yep.
so, rightfully so, yes, a lot of it's about sales and marketing, and then some about management too, but not a lot of the nuances of how do you actually manage a team properly outside of just like leadership tactics.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you make sure they show up on time? And what do
Hmm.
you do when they don't show up on time? How do you
Yep.
keep them motivated? Those types of things.
Because that was the biggest. Because that's I would say the biggest key to our current success. And I was gonna wait for like a whole other podcast to go into it, but really and truly, like it, I feel like it starts with your team, not even sales. Like sales,
Yeah.
you can make sales happen. Every entrepreneur can make sales happen. That's why you did it.
Hmm.
That's why I did it. That's why you've done it. Like you can sell. That's really not the hardest part. Getting other people to sell is harder.
Yeah.
Um, but the team is the hardest part because for the longest time, what was the conference we went to?
Scalable. Get scalable.
Get scalable.
Yeah.
Mike, no.
Ryan Dice.
Ryan Dice.
Ryan Dice.
The biggest thing I took away from that one was like, you aren't the best, and there are other people that can do what you
Yes.
do. The only difference is the one thing that he kind of reassured me is like, I am the only one that can do everything that I do
Hmm.
because I'm the only one in my head, right? That's like, I'm the only one that knows how to do construction, sell, software development, like all marketing, everything. Like no one can replace me. But there's someone who knows how to do construction. There's someone who
Hmm.
knows how to bring in softwares. There's someone who knows how to sell. There's somebody. So when he broke that down, I was like, okay, how do you do that though?
Yeah.
And that conference was incredible. If you haven't been to that one, go to it because it's awesome. Um, but the thing was, and that's the second we left that conference, I was like, okay, my bottlenecks. I can't focus on the business or focus on growth because I'm swamped with just making sure that we sell stuff and that the team is in line. So the first thing that we did was came home, told Haley, my wife, said, I need to get like a CSR, somebody to help with calls. And just fortunately, she was laid off a couple of months before that. And she was like, I need a job. So we started working together, and real quick, I think that same month we like tripled sales immediately, just because we were able to have somebody do proper follow-up. Like I wasn't following up with anything. I was just trying to make things like flow. Like there was no follow-up. There was no real like phone process. It was just me winging it all the time. So then we hired that. Then we got the lead handyman, promoted our first guy from technician to lead. We didn't even have that many technicians. We only had like 2 or 3 techs, but I was like, I need to start establishing people underneath me. And I feel like we kind of jumped the gun, which is why we weren't 100%. There was no profit, but it's just because we've been jumping, I feel like, ahead of the game a little bit. Like, okay, we need this person. Let's put him into place. We need this person. Let's put him into place. I feel like some businesses wait until they need that person and then put them into place almost, which is, I don't know.
Yeah, I actually recommend if like you're a business out there and you're in the same place, my recommendation is always invest in them earlier on.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that person make sure they work while I'm growing than waiting till the absolute last second to find that person. Because what happens if that person, they aren't the right fit, or they leave right after, or you encounter something that you just didn't expect? Well, now you absolutely have to have this person or this position in place, and you're having trouble with it. So I recommend getting the position in place that you need to scale before. That way you're in a much better position to solve challenges than if you are just like on the edge and you have to solve it today. Like you have more time. And that's going to be, good for you, your mental health, and your just ability to make decisions and stick with them.
Yeah, because like in theory, we shouldn't have, like we weren't 100% ready for Haley to be a CSR. We didn't have the right software. We didn't have like a proper software to where she could manage her inbound booking rate and all that stuff. But like we just did it because she was there, it was available, and we knew that she would be good at it for the time being. And it's continued to go great. And then the same thing happened. The second one of our technicians started going above and beyond. I saw him help manage another guy. Basically, I pulled up to the job site and he was just instructing them on how to do things. I'm like, I don't need to be here. You know what? You handle this. And just right away, I mean, you could tell that's what he wanted to do. So like if somebody wants to do that position, like right now, we're going through the next phase of wanting to double the team. And so we have the next CSR available. We only have to have them part-time, but like they want to continue learning and growing and be a part of the company. So you know what? Just to make sure that they don't run off, here's your full-time position. We know that we're going to take that hit for the next 30 days, but we are ready for in 45 days when we have the whole second team set up, that person's there and they're ready to go. You don't have to train them once you need them. They're trained and they're ready to go immediately.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I've heard a lot of is like, set up your other, everything else first and then get that person. Like don't ever bring on that expense you don't need. And in reality, like that expense you need is a person that's a lot harder to find than just a monetary value or whatever.
And sometimes if you haven't done this before, you don't even know what they need.
Yeah.
And the only way to figure out what they need is to bring them in, start getting them into things, and be like, oh, hey, you need a way to manage calls.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I need a way to see how you're performing with your book rate, and you might track some KPIs on you and have some transparency there. But thinking about the position, you're like, I just need somebody to take the calls when they answer or when somebody calls in, and then like pass it to somebody else or take them to the next step. But there are a lot of nuances that you just cannot know by just forward projecting. Yeah.
So for us, I feel like it's helped a lot. Like when I just threw Henry into that position as lead handyman, real quick, we realized he didn't have a process for creating estimates. He didn't have a process for checking in on the guys. He didn't have a process for making sure invoices were sent correctly and hours were updated and all of that stuff. I was just doing it all because I just knew what to do, but there was no
Yeah.
process for it. So hiring the person beforehand actually made it easier to create the processes. And I feel like in the growth stage and this 200, 200, 300 to a million, I feel like that's the best track rather than when you're at 1, 2, 3, trying to, go to 3, 4, 5 or whatever. You need the processes in place in order to keep, you know, growing.
Mm-hmm.
But in that new stage, you don't have processes. It's just
Yeah.
been you.
Yeah.
So hire the person. I feel like we can kind of both agree on that. Hire the person, figure out what's broken,
Mm-hmm.
and fix it. Like that's honestly, I feel like the best way to. It doesn't sound conventional at all.
Yeah.
Because it's like create your process. Just have this and this. Now you should have like an idea of what they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna need.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's been the best because once he had that, he was good to go. Once the new CSR had what she needed, they were good to go. But
Yeah.
it took time for them to tell me and tell Haley, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how
Yeah.
to do that. I don't know how to do this.
And I think one thing you did well that a lot of I saw a lot of business owners is they hire people at this lower stage where they don't have process, they don't have stuff figured out, and they will create these strict processes or these very strict job responsibility lists and hire somebody and tell them this is what you're going to do, and
Mm-hmm.
they just from day one put them into a box.
Yeah.
But the problem is that box was built arbitrarily.
Yep.
Like there's no reason that the wall is that
Yeah.
high and that wide and you use that type of material. But what you did with the smart fix is you hired people and you didn't really just give them a box. You said, this is the direction we need to
Yeah.
go.
Here's your
Hey,
playing field.
yes.
Yeah.
Hey, CSR, we need to be able to take in calls. We need to be able to book them onto assessments or onto hourly jobs.
Yep.
And that's kind of like the top of the mountain. Exactly how we get to the top of the mountain, I'm not sure. So, any
Yeah.
ideas you have, I am open to hearing. And
Yeah.
what did that do? Well, that led them to start building out their own processes and say, hey, I used to do this at my old company. How about we try it this way?
Yeah.
And then they are bringing in learnings and helping you shape your processes, and it's not all falling on you as the business owner. Because if you try
Yeah.
to figure out everything, you're already doing, especially if you're at this stage, you have enough to worry about. So don't put people in the boxes when you first hire them on. Bring them on, show them what needs to be done, lead them in
Mm.
that direction, and help give them guardrails, make sure they don't fall off a cliff. But
Yeah.
other than that, let them walk up the mountain, find the paths that are blocked off, and then track back, and then find the paths that are open, and have them find the way to get to the top of the mountain. You just support them on their journey.
And a really good example of that was literally today. We had a meeting with the CSR. Now both of our CSRs meet kind of like 2, 3 times a week. There's no strict timeline on it, but they just meet a couple times a week to figure out, okay, my booking rate was 45%, yours was 65%.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do? What did I do? And Haley literally told our other CSR today, she goes, hey, it feels like you have handcuffs on. Like when you talk, it kind of sounds like you have handcuffs on because we've wrote this script for you. Break the handcuffs, break the rules. And she was like, what do you mean? And we're like, feel free to go off script. If they start talking about they can't have the job done on Saturday because their kid's got a soccer game,
Mm-hmm.
ask them what time the soccer game is. How old are they? What division are they in? Oh, cool. How long has he been playing soccer? Like, you don't have to just go from that to, this is off script. What do I do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Call us back later.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big thing is like, of if they feel handcuffed, if they feel like, well, this is the rule, I have to follow it,
Mm-hmm.
then that almost sets them up for failure. Because what if they have a better way of doing it? Or what if they're just a person that doesn't like to sit in front of the computer and take notes when they're calling? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they want to get up and walk around with the person, and while they have a 9-minute conversation. I'd rather them have a 9-minute conversation than a 5-minute conversation and lose the lead than
Mm-hmm.
win the lead. Because we had at one point had even mentioned like your call should be around like 5 minutes or whatever. We didn't mean much from it, but she took that as, this call's at 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. I'm wasting time because they're paying. No, if it takes 38 minutes to get that person to book a job, like that's fine by me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't waste your time. You should have qualified that person at the get-go by saying, here's our pricing. where it starts at and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
it is just such a good example of literally like you feel like you're handcuffed, break off the handcuffs. What do you need to feel like you're not handcuffed? And that's when
Yeah.
she had told Haley, well, I'd like to be able to just get up and walk around while I talk to them because it makes me a little less anxious. And it's like, do it.
Yeah.
Done. You don't have to sit there, but because we said, get ready to put in their information, she's like sitting there waiting to get the info. Like, no, get up, talk to them, whatever. And then once you're ready for their info, go sit back down and put their info in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well. And I was like, wow. I mean, it just blew her mind that we were like open to listening, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that I feel like that happens almost every few days. It's just people like employees are so programmed to this is the rule, this is the rule, this is the rule. I think that's kind of the fun part of being in like a startup or growth, in that phase, because you can do a little bit more of what you want to.
Mm-hmm.
You've also got to be really careful hiring though, because you get people that completely screw you over and take advantage of that as well. So it's a hard line to walk there. I think another podcast would be really going into like how to hire. Because I know I've learned a ton on how to hire from all kinds of different positions, and I know you have too. But yeah, I feel like we talked about that a lot this podcast, and it was the first one. But that's what it boils down to. It's your team.
Yeah.
The team that you're building is what's going to make you the most money. It's what's going to get you to the next goal. It's what's going to make you successful. It has nothing to do with just you. If you think it's all you, you're wrong. It's your team.
Particularly in the trades. If you're in any type of service-based business, your product is the people, their ability to complete a job. And if you don't have the people to complete the job, you have nothing to sell. So you can be amazing at sales and marketing, but if you have a terrible team that can't do the job that you need them to do, that you're selling, you don't have a business.
Yeah. Every service-based business, your team is that's a good point. Yeah. If you're a product-based business, then I guess it matters a little bit less.
Yeah. You sell a widget, you can sell that widget 1,000,000 times over.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You design and manufacture it, and then it's just manufactured down an assembly line, done the exact same every single time.
True.
But service-based businesses, you're selling the people's time, their skill sets.
Yeah. So it is really huge. I think we should go into that in the next episode.
I like it.
Perfect. All right. Well, see you in the next one.